Hi there, I'm Budda and you're watching Dr. Guitar, a show for all you guitarists out there. In today's episode, we're exploring basic theory for guitar players. Basic theory, musical theory, took me a long way in understanding music and in playing better and having better ideas, being able to arrange songs in a more complex or more sophisticated way, understanding arrangements, understanding scales to use, understanding chords, learning scales, getting out of the box of the scale, so getting out of pentatonic, adding up, spicing up my pentatonic licks, my blues licks. Having better chord voicings and better chord textures, harmonize melodies, so create not only guitar melodies but also singing, backing vocals, and being able to create great backing vocals and great second harmonies, second melodies, creating great memorable licks and melodies because they are related to the chords. So basically, music theory was an eye-opener for me. It revealed a new world, basically a new world, and I'm very happy I learned it. And it was probably my biggest step up in music, more than technique, more than anything else, when I understood the rules of the game, because it is a game you're playing. If you don't know the rules, you're just halfway there. So if you know the rules, the game is expanded. I want to give a big shout out to my patrons, Daniel Hodges, Rui Grillo, and Phil Preston. Thank you so much for your help. If you want to become a patron and support the channel, you just go to my Patreon link, or you can also support by donating via PayPal in the link. All of the links are in the description, by the way. If you want to have some guitar lessons with me, just send me an email. Also, I've just released my website, so if you want to support the channel, you can also go there and buy some merch, buy my own CDs, my band CDs from Budda Power Blues and Trio Pagu, buy some t-shirts, some vinyls, some USB pen drives with music and videos. There's a lot of stuff there. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done it yet. Give it a thumbs up. It's a simple gesture that helps a lot the channel. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Okay, so how many notes are there? 7, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again. Okay, simple, right? Wrong. There are actually 12 notes, and you probably noticed that I have blank spaces to fill in. The other 12 notes are the sharps or the flat notes. So if we move up a sharp note, it's half step above the note it's referring to. So a C sharp means it's half step above C. And then we have in the same order D sharp. E to F there's no sharp. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and from B to C there's no sharp. If we go backwards, we have a B flat, an A flat, a G flat, F doesn't have a flat, so we have the E flat and the D flat. Okay, here we have again the C sharp or the D flat. So this is a cycle. It continues ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. Okay? I think it's simple enough. So this is actually the chromatic scale we have in Western world. Indian people, Turkish, Asian, they have a lot of different notes in between these 12 notes. These 12 notes are arranged in the guitar by the frets, like in a piano. So in a guitar, every fret adds up or subtracts, depending on the direction, half step. So if you move one fret higher, you're going up half step, okay? That's why the 12th fret has a different marking, because after 12 frets, you are in the same note. So if you start on E, you have your E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, directly to C, then C sharp, D, D sharp, and E again on the 12th fret. So the cycle begins all over again. It's a cycle, it's repeating itself. Now we have a very important thing in music theory, which is intervals. It's basically all I think of when I'm playing, because intervals measure the relationship between notes. So I know intervals tone, I know what they feel like, and whenever I want that feeling, I go there. If we are calculating intervals in relationship to a C, because you always talk about intervals in relationship to something else. It's like percentage. You never say like, I make 20%. You have to say 20% of something. It's always relatable to something. It's in relationship to something else. In intervals, it's in relationship to the root. So if we say the C is our root, now the C is our 1. And then we move up in intervals like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And we fill up the blank spaces with flat second, flat third. This could be a sharp 4 or a flat 5. This could be a sharp 5 or a flat 6. This is a flat 7. What this means is that we have a relationship between notes. So for example, F is the 4 of C. G is the 5 of C. So this works as a ruler as you use it in centimeters or in inches, depending on where you are in the world. I actually pre-cutted 2 sheets of paper. If I have, for example, if I want the 3rd of D, I just overlap these 2 rulers, and the 3rd of D would be exactly F sharp. Okay? So if I want, for example, the fourth of E, I just set the one to be E, and then the fourth of E is A. Simple as that. So the relationship between intervals is so crucial because no matter the key you're in, a third would always sound like a third. A fourth always sounds like a fourth. Because they have that relationship. Of course, they might sound higher or lower, but they sound like they have that characteristic of that interval, which is very useful whenever you want that sound. So if you know the intervals, if you know their sound, you know when you want to use them. You know, I want that sound, so I want to use them. I usually compare music theory to culinary recipes. If you want to do something sweet, you know what gives sweet to things like honey or sugar, syrup. You won't put salt in a thing that you want to be sweet, or at least you won't put the most part of salt. You can use salt too, but you know if you salt it too much, it will be salty, not sweet. So music theory is kind of giving you the rules of how to play music. What notes can you choose? What can you add to your playing? Now that we have our intervals, we can calculate chords, okay? So there's two kind of chords, triads and four-note chords. Let's start with triads. So we have our major triad, our minor triad, our diminished, and our augmented. Okay. And they all have one, of course, because it's the note it's relatable to. Then the major triad has a third and a five, third and a fifth, a flat third and a fifth on a minor. So you immediately notice the difference between a major and a minor triad is the third. So the third immediately tells you, better yet, this immediately tells you that the third will give you a minor feeling or a major feeling. It's such an important role in music, right? The diminished is the same as the minor triad, but it has a flat five. So the flat five will give you a diminished sound. Then the augmented will have the same major third as the major triad, but will have a sharp five. And all chords always only have odd intervals. So 1, 3, 5, 7, then 9, 11, 13. We'll go there in a minute. Then we move on to four-note chords. And just in case you don't know what chords are, Chords are notes being played at the same time. So melodies is playing the notes one at a time, like a singer. A singer cannot sing two notes at the same time. Chords or harmony are 3 or 4 notes, or even more or less, it depends, played at the same time. We have the major, the minor, the dominant, and the diminished. Oh, and the half diminished, not the diminished. Okay? So they will all have the one, of course. It's the basic note. The major is basically a triad, a major triad. So 1, 3, 5 with an added 7. Okay? The minor is a basic minor triad with a flat 7. Flat 7. The dominant is the crossover between these two chords. It's the major triad with a flat 7. So it's kind of a hybrid chord. It sounds mostly major, but it has a strangeness given to him by the 7. The diminished is the diminished triad. The half diminished, I'm sorry, is the diminished triad with the flat 7. Okay? And the fully diminished, shouldn't have taken that off, but is the same thing, but with a doubled flat 7, which is basically a double flat would be a 6. So you can see we have now 4 parts, 4 note chords or 3 note chords. Triads or 4 notes. The 4 notes will sound a little more sophisticated than the triads. So the triads will apply to folk music, mainly to simpler music. The 7 chords will be more used in jazz and blues, so in a little more sophisticated. And when I say simple music or sophisticated, I'm not saying better or worse. It's just a characteristic. So in rock, if you use 7s, it will sound too pretty for rock. With a 7. In folk music, also like Dylan-esque music, it will sound better and more focused with triads because it's more direct. It has that sound. In jazz, usually people never use triads in their full format because jazz is always looking for spiced up things, or in bossa nova, or in any other sophisticated music. It's usually the 7s, the 9s, the 11s give you a different flavor. And what is 7s, 9s, 11s? Basically, if you add up a note above, 1 octave above, so why is it called an octave? It's an octave because it's the 8th. So this C is 1 octave up, or 1 octave above, from the first C. So if we move this second 1 octave above, it would be here. I will write it down here just for you to know it's 1 octave above, and I'm writing it in green. So if this would be here, the second would be a 9, the fourth would be an 11, and the 6th would be a 13th. So these are exactly the 2nd, the 4th, and the 6th, but 1 octave above, which makes them sound really different. A 2nd, 9th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 32nd, 33rd, 34th, 35th, 36th, 37th, 38th, 39th, 40th, 41st, 42nd, 43rd, 44th, 45th, 46th, 47th, 48th, 49th, 50th, 51st, 52nd, 53rd, 54th, 55th, 56th, 57th, 58th, 59th, 60th, 61st, 62nd, 63rd, 64th, 65th, 66th, 67th, 68th, 69th, 70th, 71st, 72nd, 73rd, 74th, 75th, 76th, 77th, 78th, very different because notes are made of harmonics. So every note contains other notes, kind of hidden notes. It's kind of a mix of notes. Although we hear clearly an E note, the E has E, an octave of the E, a second octave of the E, and then the fifth harmonic and the third, the major third harmonic. It contains a lot of information, although we perceive it as one note. So when you play two notes that are really close together, those harmonics shock each other and doesn't sound the same as if they are very spread apart. So when you move up a second, so when you play a C and then you have a D, one octave above of the first D, they will melt really good. They will work together really good. The same thing happens to a fourth and to a 13. Then we have the alternate 9, the flat 9, or the sharp 9, augmented 9. With the 11, we have also the sharp 11. And with the 13, we have the flat 13. So this shows up in a lot of chords. You can add these green notes to any chord, and they will give you a different flavor, a more sophisticated sound, a more complex sound, a prettier, more complex, which sometimes it's not very useful. Sometimes it's exactly what you're looking for. So the goal of this episode is to try to tell you what you can do with it, and then you'll decide. It's up to you. It's your taste. Nobody should tell you what to do. These are just rules of thumb. This is all based on the cage system. If I want to, for example, spice up this A-shaped chord. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go and watch the cage system episode. Cage system explained. This is an A-shaped C major chord. If I want to add up some notes, for example, I can add up the 7. It's immediately more sophisticated, it's beautiful, it's a pretty chord. I can add a 9. But now I don't have a third, so I can move this 5 into this third, and I'm moving the A-shaped chord to the C-shaped chord. So playing the 9 here, playing the third. Now I don't have the 7, so I will put the 7 here. And this is a C major 7. I can quit the 7 and move it to a 6, and this would be a C 6. C6 added 9. I can even add a sharp 11 here. Okay, so making it a little more complex. I can also use it here. A knee-shaped C chord. I can make it dominant. So I'm transferring this octave to a flat 7, and this is a dominant chord. Now I can use a 9 instead of the third to make it a little more sophisticated. And even more sophisticated, I can move the 5 to an 11. And I can add up here the octave. Or the flat 7. And I use this is actually C7 added 9 added 11. I use this a lot in a blues context, so I use it a lot. It's a cool, spicy chord. I learned it from John Scofield on the song "I Don't Need No Doctor," the cover he did from the Ray Charles song. When it goes to the 4. So it's a great way of spicing up your blues chords. Let's move on to the major scale. The major scale, the major diatonic scale, is basically our root scale. It's European music or European descendant music, which means all the Western world, is based on the diatonic. So all the hymns, all the child songs like Happy Birthday, like a lot of songs are built within the diatonic scale. So the diatonic scale, as the name means, it's a 7-note scale, and it's made of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you have the 8. So this is the intervals. So if we start on C, we'll have a D, an E, the F, the G, the A, the B, and another C. So 7 different notes. This C is an octave of this C. This is how we started the episode. How many notes are there? 7. Because this scale is so built into our culture that we think these are the notes that matter the most. And they are very, very Western music sounding. But we can use these 7 notes to create a lot of different stuff. The major scale has this intervals, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 intervals. So if I want to calculate another scale, for example, can you tell me another scale, please? Give me just a root note. Any note you choose. Okay, let's go with F. So if we want to calculate the F, we just bring the rule that I just created before, and we have F as the 1. Second of F is G. Third is an A. 4 is a B flat. And this is exactly why notes have 2 names. Here we have an A sharp or a B flat, but we already have the A as a third, so the A cannot be a third and a fourth. So we have to choose the different name for the note. So B flat. Okay, for the fourth. And now we move on. We know the B flat is a fourth, so we know, for example, B, the C would be the 5. And now we move to this C as a 5, because we know C is a 5. Now we have D as a 6 and E as a 7. F major scale, and so on. You can calculate all the scales through this rule. A great thing about it is the degrees of the scale. So the degrees of the scale are the order that the notes are in the scale. In the major scale, it's super easy because it's the same as the intervals. So for example, in C, the A is the 6 of the scale, the G is the 5 of the scale, the D is the 2nd, and so on. And why is degrees of the scale so important? Because they represent an important, very important role in harmony. You have probably heard about 2-5-1 progressions, or 6-2-5-1, or 4-5-1. It all relates to this position. It's the chord made by the 4, the 5, and the 1, or the 2, the 5, and the 1. Let's harmonize the scale because it's very important. How are chords created? Chords are created in thirds interval. So basically, you choose a third, and it will either be a minor third or a flat third or a major third. That's the thing. So if I want to create a chord for the first degree of the scale, and the degrees right in Roman numbers, So the first degree of the scale would be a C, then the next note, then we skip one and get the other. So not the D, we choose the E. Not the F, we pick the G. Not the A, we pick the B. And this is our first degree chord. So the first degree chord will be 1, 3, 5, 7. It's a major chord, a major 7. It's a chord, if you remember, the chord that has 1, 3, 5, 7, it's a major chord, okay? So we already know the first degree of the scale is a major 7, okay? And all these notes are related to each other by a third. So, for example, and I won't go through all the chords because it will be super long, but I hope you understand it. So, if we have, well, obviously the C and the E are related to each other by a third. Now, if we pick the E in relationship to the G, so we have E, G is a flat third, okay? Now G to B, it's a third, okay? So it's third, flat third, third. They are all related to each other by thirds. So if we go to the other chords, we'll have the second degree of the scale, which will be a D. The same thing, we will skip the note right close to it and choose the other. So D, F, A, and C. Okay? And this is 1, flat third, 5, flat 7. This is a minor triad because it has 1, flat 3, 5, and flat 7. Okay, minor triad. I write it like this, or you can also use it like a minor M. Okay, let's fast forward. Okay, so here you have all the chords in the major key. And when you hear someone talking about the 2-5-1, if we are in a major key, like for example, if we are in C major, the 2-5-1 will be exactly D minor 7, G7, and C7, C major 7. Why don't people call this the D, G, C? Because if we are in F, it will be a different approach. It will be a different note, but they will still be 2-5-1. So the 2 chord has a function on a scale. The 5 chord has a function on a scale. The 1 chord has a function. So it doesn't matter in which key you are in. It matters what the chord function is in that key. If we have a 2-5-1, in C, we will have a D minor 7, a G7, and a C major 7. If we are in F, we would have the G minor 7, the C7, and the F major 7. Just different, not worse, not better, just different. And this is super, super, super powerful because if you play these chords together in some kind of progression, you are always within the C major scale. So you can use the C major scale to create a melody, to improvise, to solo, etc. For example, Like a Rolling Stone is all based on a diatonic major scale. So you can play it in C. The verse of the song is exactly going up on the scale and the same chord. So it's 1 major, 2nd minor, 3rd minor, 4th major, and then 5 dominant. chords are within this diatonic scale. R1 is a major 7, 2 is a minor 7, the 3 is a minor 7, the 4 is a major 7, the 5 is a 7, a dominant chord, the 6 is another minor 7, and the 7 is half diminished. So we have 3 minor 7 chords on the scale. We have 2 major chords on the scale. And we have only 1 dominant and only 1 half diminished. And these 2 chords, the dominant and the diminished, can be interrelated, so they can be replacing each other. But that's for another lesson, otherwise this will be too long, okay? Another great thing of this is that we only talked about a major diatonic scale. What about the minor, are you asking? Well, the minor is related to the major, so it's exactly the same as the major, but with a little twist. Have you heard about the relative minor? I hope you had. If you haven't, there's no problem. So the relative minor, every major scale has a relative minor, every minor scale has a relative major. And the relative minor is exactly the 6th degree of the scale. So, for example, in C, R1 is a C, R6 is an A. So we have the major scale being a C major scale. If we want a relative minor, it's the A minor scale. So the A minor scale is exactly the same as the C major scale, exactly the same notes. So in a piano, only white keys, as opposite to the black keys. If we wanted an A minor diatonic scale, we would have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then another A. But the degrees and the harmonization is exactly the same as the major. So the A would be minor, 7. The second would be half diminished because we're starting here. So the 6 is actually our new 1. So 1, 2, 3, so it will go this way. Major 7 on the 3rd, minor 7, major 7, dominant. So a minor 2-5-1 would be 2, so half diminished, 5, 1, 2, so let me just 1, 2, 5, 1. Okay. Now, for example, harmonizing a melody within a scale. You've probably heard about melodies harmonized in thirds. For example, the Eagles' Hotel California solo is harmonized. 2 guitars playing different licks, but they both go together. Or people singing second vocal lines going greatly with the first one. What is harmonizing within the scale? It's exactly this thing we did. So if we had a melody, for example, C, D, E, F, G, and we harmonized it in thirds, it means we will be playing this second line, E, F, G, A, B. So if I have this melody, C, D, E, F, G, and I harmonize it in thirds, it will be, I would be playing the G's third, it will be the E, and it's going up the scale. This is harmonizing in thirds. So here it's a major third, minor third, minor third, major third, major third. It's just starting the same scale and just keeping the relationship. So we are parallel, we have a parallel harmony going the same direction as the main harmony, always in thirds. So sometimes it will be a major third, sometimes it will be a minor third, or a flat third, or a perfect third. It depends on how you call it. Because there's people that call it flat third or minor third, and major third or perfect third. We are writing perfect thirds because it's easier to me. When I started, I thought, well, if I'm harmonizing in thirds, I will do minor thirds or major thirds and keep on going. But if you do that, you're out of scale. Because if you do like a major third, okay, you're here. But then here, you're playing a minor third. The right note is a minor third. But if you play a third, it will be F sharp. So you will be making this chord B major. You would be out of key. So you need to harmonize within the scale. The last part of this long episode is to spice up chords. So if you spice up chords, like you've probably heard of C7 added 9 added 11, for example, it's just a strange chord, but it's basically a chord, a C7 chord with an extra 9 and an extra 11. So a C chord with an extra 9 would be this C chord. Well, we were talking about a C7, so instead of B, it would be a B flat. So we would have C, E, G, B flat. And then we would add the second, which would be the D, and we would add the 11, which would be the F. So we would be adding a D and an F to the chord, which makes it sound a little stranger, but very useful. Hendrix did it a lot. And if you pair this knowledge with a cage system, it's just mind-blowing what you can do because it's all related. Besides this, if you pair this with playing like a pentatonic scale in the blues, but now try to go to the notes of the chord you're playing on top of. So if you're playing a blues in G using just a minor pentatonic, it will sound like this. If you play a blues in G, but now you highlight the notes of the three chords you're playing, so when I'm going to C, I'm playing the notes that are outside of the pentatonic scale, but are in the C7 chord. It sounds like this. Using outside notes will give me a more sophisticated flavor, like B.B. King did it, for example, and a lot of the jazz fusion guys like Robin Ford, Larry Carlton do it. It's not even using strange scales, it's just highlighting the notes from the scale. So in the minor pentatonic, you're playing a minor third on top of a major chord. So you have an extra note here to play on top of the one chord, which is this one. So you can play both thirds, which is very strange, but it works in a blues scenario. Then when you move to the fourth, in this case a C, you have this outside note. The third of the C also doesn't belong to the minor pentatonic, it's a sixth to the pentatonic. So you can add it. Okay? And in the 5, you can play also the third of the chord, which is the major 7 of the whole scale, so of the pentatonic. So you get like a So I will highlight those notes like here, or here, or here, or here. And you will notice immediately they sound a little more sophisticated. So let's go. 1, 2. So way more interesting, and you have new licks with a simple add up, just because you know what notes make the chords. Well, that's it. I hope you have liked the show. Please let me know if you want me to go deeper on this, because there's a lot of stuff like modes, scales, alternative harmonies. Please let me know if you want me to go deeper in this. Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what you think about it. And if you have any doubts, please post a comment. I answer all the comments, so I will be answering yours. If you liked the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave the thumbs up. It helps a lot YouTube to suggest the channel to other people. Also, if you want to become a Patreon, just go to my Patreon page. Or you can also support the channel by donating via PayPal or buying some merchandising on my website. I also have some links on all my episodes, some affiliate links from Amazon usually. So if you buy from that link, Amazon will give me a small percentage. It's also a great way to help the channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see each other next week. Bye-bye.